This is Cassandra Green from Atlanta, Georgia. I am the founder of two organizations that work with people that are in abuse. I also write and direct plays on different causes such as human trafficking, bullying, domestic violence, civil rights issues. I am the current director of Moores Ford Bridge lynching, which is the last unsolved mass lynching in U.S. history. It took place in Monroe, Georgia in 1946 when Roger and Dorothy Malcolm, who was at the time, she was 7 months pregnant, Mae Murray and George Dorsey were killed by the Ku Klux Klan in Monroe, Georgia. This case is actually still open because from that time to this, even though there were over 30 people involved in the lynching, no one has ever stepped up and said that they took part or in a deathbed confession or the police coming up with something. And it is still an open FBI investigation. SCLC President Charles Steele actually was the one that suggested that Moores Ford Bridge take place. Tyrone Brooks actually has headed up the movement to not forget that these 5 lives were lost, even though it was in 1946. And for that reason, the reenactment has meant a lot to me and those that have participated in it. It has been done now for 11 years. It is actually taking place in Monroe, Georgia. It is usually anywhere from 150 to 300 people that come out and participate in seeing this reenactment done. It is important to me, Moores Ford Bridge, because I actually left my hometown of Charleston, South Carolina in 1989 because of a racial incident that took place in the housing area that I lived in. An interracial couple moved in with a small baby. I believe the baby was about 6 months at the time. And the white neighbors, who was fine as long as there were like 2 or 3 black families in the neighborhood and all the others were white, nothing ever happened. When this interracial couple moved in, they began to taunt the young woman and say all types of horrible things to her when her husband was at work. She could not walk out of her home without being taunted by racial slurs, nigger lover, bitch, you screwing a nigger, you know, anything that was totally just horrible for anyone to endure. This young woman endured. One night, their power was actually cut off, and someone shot through their window with them in the house with the baby. After the police had come out several times, because I was working with some NAACP members at the time, I called them and asked would they come out and see what might be done to help this couple. They came out, they brought the police, they spoke about it, they got it on the news in Charleston. And this was the month of July 1989, the first week actually of July 1989. After that, bringing those people out and the news people out, I became a target of this hate group. And I would walk home from work and I would hear them calling out, you know, nigga, hey, bitch. You better mind your fucking business because we'll kill you, da, 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 da. And so one day I was actually walking home and some men came up behind me and I said, bitch, you better mind your business, you know, and I heard something drop behind me and I turned because I didn't know what was happening. And one of the white men pulled their penis out and said, you need to suck this, bitch, suck this for me. And I ran home, went into my home. A couple of days later, I made a police report. The guy was arrested. A couple of days later, I heard someone yelling, I thought, out in my yard area. And so I walked over to the door and opened it. And there was one of my white neighbors standing in my yard with a sawed-off shotgun and telling me, bitch, you better mind your business or we can take care of you. I slammed the door, fell on the floor, and was so afraid that even though there was a phone in my home, I could not move. And I thought about what it must have been like for blacks in the time of slavery when Ku Klux Klansmen would go on rampages and just go in and kill people in the neighborhoods. That next morning when I got up, I actually called the police, made a report. The man was arrested. So for me, racism and racial issues are very painful for me. So being from Charleston, South Carolina, when the shootings took place, I went home for a few days to be with family. And while I was there, I realized how hard it was for me to go home. From 1989 to now, 2015, I've only visited my home a few times. And when I do go, it's only like for a couple of days. And then I feel like I have to get out of Charleston. So I wanted to deal with that issue because of the pain of knowing that the people, many of them that I knew or knew their family members, had died in the Charleston massacre. So I decided to go to the police department, get the police reports, and try to start my healing from what happened to me in Charleston. And I'm not talking about Charleston being the bad guy, because the city of Charleston never did anything to me. But it was some of the people in Charleston that caused such a deep hurt for me that I hated the very thought of my hometown and vowed that I would never live in Charleston ever again. So I went to the police department in North Charleston, and I asked to I had the file numbers for the case, because we never got a chance to go to court about the incidences that I had with the racial group, because Hurricane Hugo hit that September. And our court was actually the week of Hurricane Hugo. And of course, everything stopped as a result of Hugo taking place, Hurricane Hugo. So I decided right after that I could not stay in Charleston any longer. I wanted to stay to at least go to court to face the men that did this to me. But I just wasn't willing to stay there and feel the hurt that I did and the hatred that I did actually for Charleston, not just for the men. It was like the whole idea of Charleston and the slavery and everything that took place there against African Americans. It just was overwhelming to me. So coming to Atlanta, I started working with victims of all types of abuses and started doing Moores Ford Bridge lynching. And the incident in Charleston really took a toll on me. So after having the court papers, the reports, I began to read them. And as I read them, I began to weep as if it had just happened. And I totally got it at that moment that there was still a lot of pain associated with the racial incident that I had gone through in 1989. And here it was 2015. And the pain was so real as I read what was said to me and, how things went down. It really affected me in a way I didn't think it would. So I wanted to just talk about how it feels to be in those type of situations, because even some of my Caucasian friends that I absolutely love, and I believe that they'll love me, it's like they don't want me to talk about, race. But even if I lose some friends because of it, it's important to me that I talk about what happened to me, because no one knows the hurt and pain that it brought me. And I don't think, unless you've ever been in a situation where someone treated you like that because of the color of your skin, which is something that I had no control over. This is who God made me. This is the race that I was born into, and I love it. I have no problem with my race. But for someone to victimize me because of my race, or anyone because of their race, it really bothers me. So yes, we must talk about race. Right now, I'm doing the Moores Ford Bridge lynching reenactment. I'm directing it and trying to find whites that will take part and be Klansmen or be townspeople. Listen, it's just acting. It is so hard to get volunteers to do that. And it sort of bothered me, because I was like, okay, I'm not asking you to be a Klansman. I'm not asking you to be a racist citizen of that time period. I'm asking you to partake in something that could bring healing. And I'm grateful for the actors and just the plain folk that have come and decided, yes, I will take place in this reenactment, because I believe that it could make a difference in bringing healing to a group, to a city, to a state, to a country, even potentially. So I guess I'm doing this because the incident in Charleston rekindled a lot of really painful memories for me. And I don't want to ever pretend that what happened to me didn't happen, because it did. And so while I was home, I actually did some videos and talked to some people about why they had come to Charleston for the murders that took place of the 9 innocent victims. And I consider them such soldiers. I consider them soldiers. And I'm so honored to have known some of them, or to even know some of their family members. And I want to see healing, but healing can only come through dialogue. So for my friends that don't understand, white or black, that don't understand why I'm talking about it, I'm telling you now, it has been extremely painful to me to know that the people that hurt me, even though they may have not physically put their hands on me, the fact that I was threatened, my life was threatened, the fact that a man felt comfortable enough to pull his penis out and tell me to suck it just because of the color of my skin. It was not easy for me. So I'm doing this video. I want to show you some of the people that I talked to, and I want to ask you even to come out to Moores Ford Bridge lynching. It's July 25th, 2015. To find out more about it, you can go to the Moores Ford Movement on Facebook. You can go to my site on Facebook, which is Cassandra Green, Greene. You can go to WOW, WOWW Ministries/Witness Program on Facebook. All of these places will give you information about Moores Ford Bridge lynching. In order for us to have healing, we must have dialogue on this subject. So I want to just show you some of the people and the images that I took while I was home in Charleston at Emmanuel AME Church. So just listen and watch. I think you'll be surprised at some of the reactions.